After coaching hundreds of print on demand sellers based on my own experience of generating over $25 million in sales, I've come to realize that there are five key differences that separate those who struggle to get their first couple of sales compared to those who skyrocket to $10 to $100,000 plus per month in sales. And the best part is that these are all things that are readily available to absolutely anybody once they are aware of them. And so in this video, I'm going to be breaking down exactly what these things are, the observations that I've seen that separate sellers who struggle to get their first couple of sales compared to those who skyrocket to meet and surpass their goals in record amounts of time. And the best part is that these things are extremely simple and something that everybody watching this video is definitely capable of doing. So in this video, we're going to be breaking down exactly what those things are and how you can immediately apply them to yourself and the way that you're growing your own business, in the hopes that once you learn them, you're able to ultimately scale and reach your goals that much faster. The first thing that these successful sellers do completely differently is they commit themselves to a single process. And this could be any number of different things. They could pick drop shipping or print on demand or honestly anything. So these sellers pick one opportunity that they validated, that they trust the person who's leading it, and they also know that it's not going to be perfect. There's going to be challenges. There's no such thing as a perfect system or opportunity out there. So they set their mindset in the right place going into it, but they tell themselves that they're going to see this through for a certain period of time before they even consider any different opportunities. And opposed to people on the other side, as they're diving into something, they're constantly have this worry that maybe this isn't going to work out, maybe it's going to be challenging. So they keep looking for other stuff. And that's a really dangerous game because things are going to pop up, especially as you jump into starting a business. You're going to start getting retargeted and showing up in these audiences for, companies selling their software, talking about TikTok Shop or like the latest opportunity in their app and all these different things. It's going to be popping up in your periphery nonstop. I can promise you that. And the sellers who struggle to get even their first couple of sales, when I look at their calendar or ask them like how they're spending their time, it's normally split between lots of different things, opposed to the people that are, achieving their goals and like having success. They are hard focused on just one single thing. And so what I would recommend and the takeaway from this is just pick one opportunity, one proven system or process. Like the 31 plus hour course that we put out shows our system and process. It's completely free. It's on our YouTube channel. And I still recommend that you do exactly what I recommended for evaluating opportunities is one, see if, the person talking about it seems credible and trustworthy. Then two, if they have a track record of not only doing the thing you want them to teach you themselves, but they've also shown tangible proof that they are capable of helping others accomplish the same goal. And as long as those things are in line, then go all in on one opportunity and thank me later. The second thing that these successful sellers do completely differently is that they remain completely objective. And not only that, but they actively seek out feedback and are eager to learn about their opportunities for improvement. Opposed to on the other side of things, the sellers who struggle to get their first couple of sales tend to be more emotional and reactive in their business. To give an example, like when I was starting out, I was very insecure about what I was doing. And because I had never been successful with it, it was against the norm. I had a 9 to 5 cushy job that it wasn't that cushy. It was at Amazon, but it was, consistent income. And what I was doing was completely outside of the norm of what my family was used to. I was like very defensive and insecure. And like basically anytime somebody gave me feedback on my store, my products, or my ads, I was like, don't tell me that. Like, this is good. This is why it's good. And I basically shut down any opportunity for improvement, which is absolutely necessary in order to grow. And this is another one where it's much easier said than done. But on the flip side, people like Steven, for example, who's one of the most successful students, now turned coach in WeScale University, he came in and had no previous e-commerce experience and was able to skyrocket to some pretty crazy numbers very fast just by doing this simple thing, which is being objective. And when I got on the first coaching call with Steven, I took a look at his store and I gave him some honest feedback that his mock-ups were not that good. And he needed to improve that, rework some things, some tweaks that he can make for his designs. He took that and we didn't hear from him for a couple of weeks. And I was like, oh, that guy's gone. Never going to hear from him again. Instead, it was about 2 weeks later that he came back and he's like, great, I applied all the changes. I did change the mock-ups, new designs. These are the results now in the ads. What do you think is next? And I was like, whoa. That is somebody who is brutally focused on the outcome and they're married to that and not worried about protecting their own ego. On the flip side, you have people that, put their heart and soul into the designs or products or whatever it is, which is great. And I think it's fantastic to be passionate about the work that you're doing. But passion, when it dips into ego and defensiveness, is very, very dangerous. And this is not just for print on demand. This is honestly for anything. But I've seen this time and time and time again, that the people that when you give them feedback and they're open to it and they're coachable, and not only that, but they want to learn, those are the people that skyrocket. Opposed to on the other side, and love them to death, but people that you can tell that their own ego and like their sense of self-worth is almost tied up in what they've made. And we have to completely separate the two. Like, and my personal view is like, you're a fantastic human and it's awesome that just because you're trying to do this at all. And let's get married to your own improvement and, the version of you can become over this process, opposed to what the work is that you just did. Especially like as a beginner, it's not going to be good. It shouldn't be good. It would be, delusional for us to think that our first batch of designs is going to turn out to be, a bunch of high sellers and like we're just going to sail off into the sunset. If it was objectively that easy, then everybody would be doing it. And every single person would have a multiple 7-figure brand. And then the market would become flooded. There'd be no opportunity. And then the supply would surpass the demand. And then there'd be no more opportunity. So the laws of the universe tell us that we can expect it to be challenging, that there will be a learning curve to overcome. And so flipping it and viewing the learning curve and the challenges and the tough feedback that we have to get, viewing that as a gift rather than a curse. And so they are committed to one process. They take the feedback and use it as a way to strengthen themselves. And they are rapidly iterating based on that feedback. And they just remain completely objective, especially when they get feedback from the market. They take that feedback as just a data point. And when they see that they launch 100 designs and one turns out to be a winner, they're excited about that. And they focus on the one winner versus the 99 losers. That's the mindset of people that end up being successful. And then on top of that, they take into account point 3, which is they have a long-term outlook. And when I started out, I was, it felt like I had my back up against the wall and I had to get things to work very, very quickly. And that kind of forced me to take a short-term outlook. And I'm not even talking about like months or weeks, but like literally days. And so every day that I would wake up to work on my business, I felt like I had an existential crisis and that if I didn't get it to work by this afternoon, that everything was going to fall apart. There was some truth to that with my financial situation back then, but moral of the story is that it ended up becoming like a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way, because when I woke up with a short-term outlook and thought I need to get this working by today, it completely shifted my priorities from where they should have been and what would have been healthy and like led to, the most rapid growth, to just short-sighted, like basically let's just get more ads launched. Let's just hope because like it needs to work right this second. And I've seen this be completely different in like the successful sellers versus those trying to get their first sales. Is the successful sellers take a long-term outlook. They are not in this for a week or a month. They're looking at this for where could I be a year from now or 18 months, 5 years. And it's a great Bill Gates quote, which is that most people underestimate how much they can get done in a decade, and they overestimate how much they can get done in a month or a year. And that is so true because, and to give an example of a student from WeScale University, when I was talking with them, I asked them about their mindset and how they like approach their business. And this was somebody who had a decent amount of success. They said that I'm in this for the long term. Like, I know that this is a process I can follow. And, I've seen that this can work for other people. So why not me? And I'm going to see it through for like at least a year, 18 months. He's like, when I launched my first designs, I didn't get good results. And if I was trying to get this to just work within 2 weeks or a month or 2 months, that would have led me to basically just keep pushing and just keep running at, just keep like opposed to, luckily he had a long-term outlook. And because of that, he was able to take a step back and ask the intelligent question of like, why didn't this work? Why didn't I get the feedback that I wanted? What can I do differently to improve this? And so rather than trying to push and like just force the case, he took a step back, and it was a prime example of taking one step back to go 3 steps forward. In his own words, if he hadn't done that, he would be, probably still just spinning his wheels, just focusing on like ads, for example, opposed to what he was able to do. He took a step back, came up with a completely new catalog of designs, which took, work, took taking constructive feedback from the market, and he stayed committed to one process. And then on top of that, on top of the long-term outlook, he also applied point number 4, which is he moved fast. And there's a big difference between rushing things and moving fast. One of the biggest differences that I've seen between people that, struggle to get their first couple sales and end up scaling is in the amount of time that it takes them to go from idea or in going all in, like I'm going to do this, I'm going to like see this thing through. They don't have to have any previous experience or marketing or Shopify or design or anything else. But just from the point that they make the decision in their mind to the day that they launch, it is a dramatically compressed time scale compared to the people who struggle. Those people, and again, love them to death. Like I'm making videos like this to hopefully you can avoid making the same mistakes, because what they do is they just drag it out and they let perfect be the enemy of progress. And the stories they tell themselves are things like, why things are more challenging for them, that they care more about like their branding and their designs and like all these stories about why it can't work and like why they're taking longer. When in reality, none of that matters. Like objectively, none of that matters. You just need to go from zero to ripping the Band-Aid off and getting feedback from the market, which that's truly the only thing that matters. And I found like this is like a secondary observation or theory around this, is that I think the people who are most objective are the ones who end up being able to move quickly, and they don't find little things to pop up to slow them down. And so what I think is a reasonable timetable for somebody going from zero to launched with a new print on demand brand is about a month. And this is very subjective depending on the amount of time you have to commit. Some people are working full-time jobs, and I think like more power to you. You're a badass. But so I'm not saying to like quit your job or anything like that. It's just, it's less about the individual hours and more about how they're spending it. And you can almost tell when somebody is working and they're like, I just want to get this thing launched. I want to get it out there, not because I want to rush things, but because I'm excited for the thrill of like the feedback. And they also know that they're going to learn much faster by getting all the way through the process once, opposed to taking time and mulling over each individual step, which that whole concept blends itself perfectly with point number 5, which is the most successful sellers tend to focus on the bigger picture. And this means they don't get down in the weeds. Not that they don't know how things work down there and they don't understand the intricacies of the business, but they've stayed laser focused on the 10,000 foot view, because that is truly the only thing that actually matters is the business moving forward? And if it's not, I don't get hyper fixated on like just my ads or just my designs. I'm constantly returning to the 10,000 foot view and looking at the business holistically, opposed to just hyper fixating one area. And a story to go along with this is that for about the first 3 or 4 years of me running brands, I was obsessed with the ads. Like I would spend every day, like every hour of every day, I was in the ad account and I loved it. It was kind of misleading because we did get some quick results, but I think there was some elements of, just like right timing and stuff. And it basically became misleading. And so it reinforced the behavior of just hyper fixating in one area until I got to a store that it didn't matter what I did in the ads, like just nothing was working. And I was just, I had one tool in my tool chest. It was probably a hammer, you could say. And it was just problem in the business, more ads, different ad creative, watch another YouTube video with like a new ad strategy, that kind of thing. And it was just that over and over and over again until one day I hit a breaking point where I'm like, this is not going anywhere. I feel like I've exhausted everything. And it wasn't until I hit that brick wall that I was almost forced to take a step back and look at the business overall. And that's when once I did that and I started looking at the store, the products, our customer service, and the ads, everything grouped together, that I started to realize that, focusing in silos is good, understand how each piece operates, but it needs to be a cohesive whole. Because then I started noticing things like our product catalog wasn't completely aligned with like the brand messaging that or offers that we were doing, in the ads. And our Shopify store was kind of laid out better for our previous store that we had run, which was like a different product type. We just copy pasted and hadn't really adapted anything. And so once I started noticing all these things, which came from looking at the 10,000 foot view, I was able to dial them all in. And then without any changes to the ads, things just kind of started working. And an easy metaphor for this is to tell if you're focusing on the big picture versus down in the weeds is if you picture your business as a brick and mortar store. This has been a frame that has really helped me stay focused on, the priorities. It's like if people are not converting in a store, it's very easy to just like quickly look around and see like, Okay, what's bringing people in the door? When they come in the door, what are they expecting to see here? Okay, but they're not buying. So what could it be? The shelving units are misaligned. Like, is it something with the carpet, or is it, the wrong people are coming in the door? Like, what is it? A lot of times it ends up being the product. But when we are in the physical world, it's very easy for us to see all that in one place. The challenge with this is that when we're working online, things are very separate. And especially when there's a skill deficit for us to overcome, we end up becoming more proficient in one area than another. And so we end up hyper fixating on that and trying to use that as like one size fits all type of solution, which it's simply never like that. So they focus on the bigger picture, and that helps them when they start coming up against challenges, asking themselves, like, am I making progress? And if the answer is yes, then they keep going. And as a bonus, an additional thing on top of all of these that I would say is perhaps one of the most important is that they enjoy the process and they don't get hung up on the losses or the downtimes because they view it with a win or learn mentality. And so even when they don't get the results that they want in the ads, which absolutely will happen to every single person who starts a business, they will put a lot of effort into something, put it out there into the world, and uh, crickets. That will happen. And the people that I've seen have the most success, not that they are like happy about that, but they view it as a opportunity for growth. And they approach the business, like when they talk about their business, there's almost like a subtle smile on their face as you can see them, like their gears turning, thinking about stuff. And not to say that it has to be all rainbows and sunshines. And if you don't feel elated every time you sit down at your laptop, then you're doing the wrong thing. But I think, at least for me, it was a mindset shift. I used to think that when I worked on the business, it had to be, grinding and just like long hours nonstop. And, it's just that's what business is. I'm sure lots of people have had success thinking about it that way. But for me and for what I've observed, people that have done well in this relatively quickly they're doing all the same things. They're still working hard. They're still like have tough moments and stuff, but they just take it a little bit easier and they enjoy the process. A big key in that is that they recognize how far they've come, which makes it that much more enjoyable. And bonus tip number 2 is these people are not closed to the chest with, what's working and how they're approaching their business or their story in general. Not to say that they go out just sharing their URL and like their winning design everywhere. Like, I'm not saying that, but like in communities, like in WeScale University, they're posting in there, sharing their latest strategies, tests they've made, and they're helping out complete beginners. Not just because they're, good people and, want to help and give back, but in my experience, I have learned and solidified concepts in my mind so much faster by having to teach it to somebody than I ever did having to just learn it for myself. And there's studies around this as well. But basically, when you learn something with the intent to teach it or repeat it back to somebody else, you learn it in a completely different way. And I also think that the mindset of just giving and abundance and just an abundance mentality is something that lends itself very well to being successful. And I'm not saying that anybody who's struggled to get their first couple of sales doesn't have any one of these points we've gone through. It's certainly possible, but I've just seen time and time again, too many times to not talk about it, that people that have had the most success are the ones that are able to commit to one process, whatever that process may be. Just make sure you do your research, and trust the person that you're going to be learning from, that they stay objective and they are eager to receive feedback. They have a long-term outlook. They're not thinking about this for the next week or month. They move quickly. They move quickly to be able to iterate fast, and they know that is where the majority of the lessons learned are going to come from, and that they'll learn so much more by making 100 designs than spending time learning about how to make 100 designs. Fifth, they focus on the big picture. They know the 10,000 foot view is pretty much the only view that matters, and they have an enjoyment of the process. They view it as like an exciting opportunity for growth, even in the hard times, and they give back and they try to help others where they can. Hopefully this has been helpful or insightful for you, like it has been for me getting to observe this. And if you're curious to learn more about this process and just personal development and stuff in general, we do Mindset Monday calls in WeScale University where we talk about these exact kind of topics. But first, I would recommend that you check out the 31 plus hour course, which will be linked somewhere around this video. It is a day and 7 hours, as math would suggest, talking about literally showing everything that we do. That has allowed us to grow 8 different brands to 7 figures and beyond. Pretty much rinse and repeat. Now it's been working pretty well for a lot of people who have gone through the course as well, but full credit goes to them. Like, and I've just observed that these are like the character traits of the people that have, had the results that they desired versus those who are still, still like, it's not like hope is lost for anybody. Like, I think it's possible if anybody's able to make these shifts. And I hope that that's the case for you as well. So if you like these kind of videos, if you want to see more content on this kind of topic, be sure to like and leave a comment down below. And because I read all the comments, I really appreciate all the feedback you guys have been giving. And other than that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.